Hello, music fans, music collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Car King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com, your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program an icon of drumming. He is considered one of the very best in the business. His new band, called Led by Vultures, is out with their latest single, Waves. I welcome to the show the great Brian Tichy. Brian, great to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And, with this new album soon to be released, Brian, I want to ask you, what inspired you guys to write the songs for this album? Give us some background on this album that's soon to be released.
Some of the songs are old and some are brand new, and it's a combination of all that, and it's just sort of a long time coming record. It's something that I've been wanting to do and putting aside for far too long. So when it came time to start making it last year, I was going through a bunch of old ideas and taking bits and pieces of what I liked from the past, and as well as writing new stuff. And I think the end result is 12 songs, which is about half and half, half new, half old, and just try to put it all together and make it sound like a kick-ass rock record.
So now, Led by Vultures, if I'm not mistaken, Brian, this is a band that was created, in 2025?
Yeah, yep.
Now, is this your debut album that's soon to be released?
Yeah, it's the first. It's the brand new everything. Outside of, like I said, some of the songs being older demos, redone. It's all a brand new thing.
Now, I have a little excerpt that I want to play for the listening audience to hear. Let's see if we can air it now.
The sun straight to the horizon, and I see those clouds bringing the rain. I slipped away, but I can't go on denying my time is slowly ticking away. Bones and sit down by the fire. You don't have to know what to say. You're not alone, no. Can sink into the mire and climb the mountain, seize the day. It's in my mind, it's in my soul. I ride this way till it lights me home. It's in my mind, it's in my soul. I ride this way till it lights me home. The totally bill.
And you just heard the band's latest single, Waves. Led by Vultures is the name of the band. With us is the great Brian Tichy. I mean, that's fantastic work, Brian. Very melodic. It's kind of a reflective side of what I'm used to hearing from you. What can you tell us about Waves?
Well, being that it's the third single, there's a couple before that which pretty much represent what the record is mostly about, which is more heavy guitar-driven stuff. But for this third single, couple friends and talking to a couple people, suggested putting that song out just to go down a different direction a little bit as far as showcasing a different side of the record, because that is the more the odd man outside of the record, the acoustic, more Floydian Zeppelin-y kind of thing that's represented a little bit on the record, whereas the rest of it is more heavy guitar-driven stuff. But this was one of those old songs, and I got to mention my buddy, the amazing keyboard player Derek Sherinian, is the co-writer on that, and he plays all the keyboards and all that stuff on it. And the basic story was I had the intro guitar riff a long time ago. He heard it and said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's just something I'm messing around with." And he goes, "That's cool. That needs the pipes of Pan." And with I knew exactly what he meant. It needs the Pan, the flute sound, a la like Stairway to Heaven or whatever. So we just started kind of finishing up the song together. But this is, like I said, a long time ago. And when it came time to start making the new record, he suggested putting that song on. And as soon as he brought it up, I was like, "Oh yeah, that would be a nice little change of pace on this more heavy guitar-driven record." So when it came time to put the third single, Thoughts, together, he said, "Dude, you got to do that. You got to do it. Do video for that song and showcase the other side of the record." So I said, "Why not?" That's so if it's the first time you're hearing the band and you hear an acoustic guitar, that's a rarity on the record, but it is there.
I mean, this is amazing. So this is a track that you basically had in your back pocket, and then you bring it out to the world just like that. And the video is fantastic.
Well, thank you. This was, I don't want to say it was a hard video to make. It was just the idea of me alone with an acoustic guitar at a beach at a song called Waves. Just, it wasn't sitting right, even though it made sense. It wasn't something I was immediately comfortable with the thought of, but that was once again Derek saying, "Dude, all you got to do is go to the beach with the acoustic and just catch that vibe, and that'll be a cool video." And I was like, "Well, that's the easiest thing to do, and it makes sense, So my buddy, the director, and I, we went down there one day, and we were hoping for some reason, well, not for some reason, we went down during sunset, thinking down in Malibu to a beach called El Matador Beach, and there's these huge killer rocks there and all this stuff, and I knew it would look cool. We were kind of intending on catching the sunset and exposing that and making the most of it. Well, the day we went down there, it was completely overcast. There was zero sun at all. It was completely cloudy. But we were like, whatever, we're here. Let's just do it. And I think it worked out to our benefit. The way it ended up looking in the video. And after we worked on it and he did his thing with filters and did lots of editing, I think we came out all right for all things considered.
So now, August 28th, 2026, in a couple of weeks, this is when the entire debut album is released, correct?
Yes, yep.
All right, so I have a large listening audience, Brian, over, I would say, approximately 100,000 listeners. Very important, where can they pick up this new release? Very important.
Yeah, you can get it. Everything to do with the band is it's through Deco Entertainment, so it's that simple. Just go to decoentertainment.com, whatever, and there's a list of bands. Go to Led by Vultures, and you got your vinyl. You can pre-order now the vinyl, the CD, and some T-shirts and hats and all that stuff. And it's all there now, but everything comes out August 28th. Yeah.
All right, so if I may, let's backtrack a little bit, if it's okay with you, and talk about some of the iconic work with the bands that you were involved in. 2010 to 2013, you're drumming for Whitesnake. I mean, how is that? Take us back. How did Whitesnake get a hold of you?
It was actually many years before that. I think it was 2003. David Coverdale gave me a call. I guess at that point he was putting Whitesnake back together. Maybe he did a solo record prior to that. And I don't know how he got my number, but he called me. And I was with Billy Idol at the time. And I was perfectly happy there. Billy's a badass and great boss, and it was a lot of fun playing with him. So David called me just wondering if I was interested, and he was putting Whitesnake back together. But what ended up happening was I think I was like the kind of the number 2 guy, because it ended up being more or less Tommy Aldridge, who had been in Whitesnake in the 80s. He rejoined, and I think David was just putting out feelers at the time to see, if Tommy didn't do it, what other guys he might be interested in were available or could be available. But anyways, that was the first time we had spoken. And then years later, Tommy left the band, and his guitar player at the time, Doug Aldridge, we had met and jammed somewhere in L.A. for something. And he gave me a call and said, hey, we're looking for a drummer, and that was that. And at that point, by that time, I think it was 2010. Yeah, you're right, 10. I had just left Foreigner, and they tour a lot, and I had kids and stuff, and we were on the road a lot, so I kind of wanted to be home more. So when Doug called me and said, Whitesnake's doing a record, and then a tour, we were going to do the record in 10, but not go out until 11. So I was like, okay, that could work out. We'll do the record this year, and I'll get time at home, and then we'll tour all next year. So that's pretty much how it came together. But I can't just say that as if it's no big deal, because David, as we all know, is an amazing singer. Whitesnake, just the fact that he was in Deep Purple, and after a few records goes on to start his own band that becomes huge on its own. And I was, as a kid in high school, and I was made aware of Whitesnake through MTV and all that. So it was an honor to play in that band and do a record and tour. And David is just such a great positive figure, and a great guy to be in a band with. Just always up and always making things fun. So yeah, it was all in all, and we're still buds. It was a real fun experience.
Yeah, now I believe you took over for Chris Frazier, who was the drummer of Whitesnake at that time. How was the transition when you took over for Chris Frazier? Was it difficult learning the tunes, or you just fell right into place?
No, it was more like the first thing was learning the new record. So that was all new stuff, all new songs, and it took about a week in the studio and recorded that. But it wasn't until getting ready for the tour the next year where you basically sit down with the most recent live versions of where they're at with how they perform, the songs that have been played live, and you kind of work off that. But as a fan, I'd also go back to the original recordings, the studio recordings, and refer to them, and then listen to how the band approaches that live, and kind of put it all together. And you get in rehearsals, and if anybody has suggestions about how they're going to change something or do something live for that tour, you just pay attention and listen. But it really, yeah, I can't remember, honestly. It was a while ago which live version I listened to. It probably was something with Chris Frazier, but it might have been Tommy. I can't remember. But the cool thing was nobody was telling me what to do. In some bands it's obvious you got to play something a certain way, and there's a certain amount of freedom in Whitesnake. But I think for most musicians know you instinctively that certain things have to be played, and then there's certain songs or parts that you may have a little bit of freedom with. But for me, I just stick to what people know the most, especially if it's a hit song. You don't want to mess with it. You want to kind of keep it. You play the song as people know it. Unless the band's changing it up for some reason. But yeah, it's I've been doing it a long time, and at this point, or even back then at that point, I don't. I'm familiar with getting into different, situations in different bands, and whether it's the studio or live, and you feel things out, and you ask questions, or you let people tell you what to do, and you take it from there. I don't ever go in assuming I can play how I want, or I don't have to consider how they used to play anything, and I'm just going to go for it how I feel. That doesn't make any sense to me. Listen to the people that have been there, and or listen to your boss, and get it done and make them happy.
Yeah, and you mentioned something very interesting, Billy Idol. How was he as a boss? He was a good boss to you?
Yeah, I could go on for a long time about how cool Billy is, because when I joined the band, I think it was 2001. I was in with Billy for like 8-9 years or something, and we became writing partners. His comeback record in 2005, we wrote most of that together. Man, we did a Christmas record together, new songs for his greatest hits, additional songs on that. So I became a lot more than just his drummer, but, for the first couple of years, that's what I was. So I'd, meet up with him in rehearsals and tour. So to get in a room alone with a guy that's this iconic figure that you really only know from being on the road with, to be alone in a room and start creating music was a whole different trip. And, but he was killer. He's God, if everybody was like Billy, things would flow smoother on this planet. Yeah, he's great. He's so talented, and he's just nothing but a good guy. And a lot of, at least for me, with all these different bands I've been in, I'm lucky that I've been in bands I dig, where I like the music and stuff. It's not like I'm hired into some pop thing and, whatever, you're getting paid decent, but you don't care about the music. These bands, whether it's Ozzy or Foreigner or Billy or Whitesnake, these are bands I grew up with, and, so it was always, tying into my childhood when I'd play with them, So, and with that said, I've never been in a band where the bosses or the boss was a dick or anything. Everybody's been cool, but I think in the world of music, it's when you are the band, that's what matters the most. At the end of the day, you got to get on stage and deliver. And if your boss can tell you mean it and you're giving 100%, you're going to get that respect back from him. And yeah, I guess there's situations where, I'm sure, people can talk about their boss, maybe not being that cool, but I don't have those experiences. I go in and pay attention to details and get the job done as best I can, and hopefully that brings about some respect, and then everybody's in a good mood.
Yeah, and I got like 5 minutes with you. I want to get a couple more in, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
When you think back of your career, Brian, was there ever a project that you turned down when you think back that you regret today?
Oh, turned down. No, nothing comes to mind. Because I don't think I'd. No, I don't know. Maybe there was something that I chose not to do, but it was for reasons that made sense at the time. But nothing I look back and go, oh, I can't believe. I guess the only thing I can think is I joined up with Foreigner in 1998 when it was still Mick Jones and Lou Gramm. Lou was still fronting the band until I think 2001 or 2 or something like that. But there's been times in this business it's not easy unless you're in some for me, even though I've played these bands and I enjoy it all, I'm always trying to push to the next thing, like in my life. And I guess that's what ties into Led by Vultures is I was never just a drummer, and if anybody knows my name, that's what they'd know it from is, oh, I saw him play with this band, or he was in this band. But I always had this other side of me, writing and playing guitar and putting this band together, from every angle. The Led by Vulture stuff I did in my home studio and played all the instruments, wrote all the songs, mixed it, even mastered it, which I wasn't expecting to do. But to get back to the point, there's times where if you're in a band and you're touring, 10 months of the year, and that becomes your life, you could see, if you keep that going, 5 years could go by, maybe 10, and that's all good. For some people, that's a gig and that's a job, and if you're happy, great. But for me, it was always like, well, it's not my band as much as I love like the music of Foreigner. So it's not something I guess when there's been in between band times, or maybe you need work or you don't have it, the only thought I think of is, oh, I could have just stayed in Foreigner this whole time, 25 years or whatever. But I opted not to, even though I love the band and I love the guys and grew up on them. I guess for me personally, I've just tried to push myself a bit and get into positions where you have to have a little bit of self-confidence and if you move on somewhere, you got to hope that what you've done in the past can tie into your future, and hopefully doors and opportunities will open.
Yeah, and you've been traveling so many years all over the world. Was there ever a time? Was there ever an opening act that was so good that made you step up to your game?
There's been a bunch of great opening acts, but I guess that's cool, healthy competition if there's some ass-kicking opening band, but I'm first and foremost up there to, I'm the hardest critic on myself, so I'm there first to prove to myself I have a reason to be. The reason I'm here is because I've worked my whole life doing this, and I love doing this, and and I owe it to myself to walk off the stage and sort of be happy and proud about what I've done, and then of course next in line is whoever the boss of the band is, and then there's the rest of the band, and then there's the fans of that band. That's always first and foremost to me. It doesn't matter where I'm playing or who we're playing with or whatever. It doesn't matter what band I'm in. That's the goal, is to never walk off a stage and be like, yeah, I didn't go for it 100%. That's not how I live, and doesn't make sense. If I'm going to be an 8-year-old kid learning how to play drums and I'm going to call myself a drummer, when you give me an opportunity to be a professional drummer and I'm on your stage, well, I have no excuses, and yeah, so there's no opening band is going to have me look at any of that differently. But with that said, if you're in a band and you're playing a festival and there's a bunch of ass-kicking bands playing with you, yeah, it's a fun type of pressure. You want to impress everybody at the festival, any other bands that may be watching, yeah, but it's also comes from the same place. You want to show people what you do and play your best, and give everybody as much as you can out of yourself.
Yeah, and Brian, I thrive off competition. The radio business is loaded with it's all about competition. Do you feel there's any rival for you out there that's competing against you, or you just bring your own style to the forefront?
No, I am competitive, but it's more of a sports thing. Like if I'm playing racquetball and I lose, I'm really, man, you don't want to talk to me after that at all. But drums, there's similarities between the competitive side of sports and music, but music is music, and it's not sports, and you don't go to songwriting college and become the hit songwriter, and all of a sudden you get a job writing hit songs. It's kind of, you have to have something inside you that's intangible, that just happens. No, I'm not. I love so many. There's so many new drummers out there. Iconic, historical, legendary drummers that I draw inspiration from. And at this point in my life, man, I'm just happy playing drums, and I've put a lot of time into it, but there's a whole other side to music that's got nothing to do with that side of, looking at an instrument, which is, this putting out a new record, starting a new band, and creating a full picture of a full record of music. That to me is it's more kind of where my head's at. Well, it's definitely where my head's at, but it's not something. It's not, the competition thing isn't there, because it's whoever's out there, man. If you're kicking ass, you're gonna inspire me. I'm not. I guess if somebody's in your face trying to take your gig, that's different or whatever. But you got to have a bit of confidence, and after doing it for a long time, you do what you do, and you're always trying to get better. But I don't ever look at stuff like that.
I mean, I have like 2 minutes left. Ozzy Osbourne. How did you get involved with Ozzy?
That was it was the 2000 Ozfest, and just being out in LA and knowing people, you start hearing, Ozzy's looking for a drummer, and at the time Robert Trujillo was Ozzy's bass player. He's in Metallica now since back then. He's been in there for a long time now, and Joe Holmes was a guitar player, and I had met both of them, and I think I literally called both of them and a photographer that I was friends with that was also Ozzy's photographer. And either Joe or Robert called me back, said, "Cool, man, come down tomorrow." And that was it. I went down and jammed a few songs. They said, "Cool, man, Sharon's coming in a couple hours. Come, play, stay here, then play when she's here." And then they said, "Cool, come back in a couple days when Ozzy's here." And that was it, and ultimately, got that gig and did that Ozfest tour, which was the biggest tour in the rock tour in the country going, and with amazing bands on that festival, including Pantera and Static X and Godsmack. So it was just, to get into that world as sort of the new guy was kind of overwhelming, but it was also a place I felt comfortable in because I had grown up so hardcore on Sabbath and Ozzy solo stuff. This was like, you asked me to play drums, for in that, with Ozzy on that set list of music. Yeah, that's where I come from.
I mean, it can't get better than this. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne, Foreigner, Billy Idol, Whitesnake, and on and on. I mean, you had an illustrious career. Before I let you, I have 1 minute left. Before we say goodbye, give us all your website. Where can they purchase the new single? Go right ahead. You got the stage.
Cool. Yeah, well, it's led by Vultures, and like I said, everything, you can find out everything and get everything at Deco, DEKO, DecoEntertainment.com, where that's the distribution company. So just go to their website, and you can order everything there, the vinyl and the CD, some merch and stuff like that. And then as far as, I have a website, but I barely ever do anything on it because by the time I'm finished hitting all the social media stuff, doing it, the website is barely, it's kind of like it's on the back burner. But yeah, I got an Instagram. It's, you can find out everything. It's just Instagram, Brian Tichy Drums, and Facebook, Brian Tichy, and I even have a TikTok page, which I just throw stuff on. I don't even know much about that whole thing over there. And yeah, that's it. So anything I'm doing, you can find out through all that.
Brian, great job. I don't know what else to say. The icon, the legend, Brian Tichy. Take care, Brian. Thanks so much. Great job.
Yeah.